Testing 1, 2. This is a little bit of a different setup today because I'm doing something that has led to what I'm doing. I know that doesn't make any sense, but I wanted to make an episode about this because I don't even know how to start. I'll start by introducing the show. Welcome to 10,000 Tacos. I'm Isidro Salas. Thank you for coming to the show. Here, this little setup I have, right? My iPad. Trust me, it's an iPad. And today what I'm doing, and I thought I'd share this with you because it's kind of cool. I was given the responsibility, and I take it very, very, very seriously. I was given the responsibility to narrate a book. So I am narrating a book for someone. And it's a very, very, very cool, nice, heartwarming book down my alley. And I will say this, the reason I'm bringing this up into an episode is because I started podcasting about 2017. I wanted to do a show about growing up in a taco truck, paying a tribute to my parents. And I've done that, and I continue to do that. I know I've strayed away from the original stories and experiences that led me to this point, and I'm sort of paying the price for that. I stayed away, and I lost quite a lot of audience members. And they've not found their way back. And even if they did, they probably don't like the new format. I don't know. I should ask people about that. But anyway, to me, everything's connected. Everything we do is connected. I believe in spirits. I believe that I'm a spiritual person. I believe things are connected. They're not by coincidence. And everything that you have that has led to you now is connected. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because a long time ago, about 2019, yeah, I guess you could say that's a long time ago, I was approached by somebody and they asked me if I wanted to be an MC for an event they were having. And I was like, I kind of froze, and I'm like, why would they pick me? And the guy says, because he likes my voice. He says I presented myself well on a podcast he had heard, which was 10,000 Tacos. And he approached me and he asked me, and I kind of declined. Well, yes, I did decline. Obviously, I never did it, but I declined because I was scared. I was like, I'm not that guy. I can't go up there because I pictured Dick Clark. I pictured a broadcaster. I pictured somebody who was good at this. And I'm like, I can't do that. And much to his credit, he tried to talk me into it and say, look, man, you have it. You have what it takes. You have the voice, you have the looks, you have this presentation. And I didn't believe him. And so that didn't happen. And I don't live in regret. I just think that was a moment that, yes, I could have done it, or I couldn't do it. I didn't do it, but it wasn't my time. That's what I understand that to be now. It wasn't my time. I asked myself the simple question, would you do it? And the answer inside of me was no. I was too scared, and I didn't think I could do it. And so that went on. As we were settling into Colorado, where I live now, I began to think, because we moved here because my wife was offered a job that she really couldn't turn down. And I was like, I'll go anywhere with you. So let's go. So we packed up and we moved here. And so, I got a few jobs in between, but I haven't really settled into what I feel comfortable doing. And that's a luxury that I could afford because my wife has given me that, right? And the lifestyle we have. But anyway, I wanted to get back into something, and I thought, what if I can do voice acting? And I laugh about it because I didn't think it was a career. And so I started to look into it, and again, I got these butterflies like, no, and I would search and research people, and I bumped into this one person who had this beautiful voice, very, very beautiful face, and I was like, I can't be like her. And if you listen to her, you would be like, oh, I didn't know that was her. And so that to me was like, man, what if I start training for that? And I didn't take it serious. And so time went on, I got other jobs, and I started doing content creation. And what is content creation? You put yourself in front of a camera and you're like, And then little by little, I started feeling more comfortable. Let's restart the podcast, but this time it would be a video. And so that's where we're at now, right? And so when I was, see, I'm saying, and so a lot, consciously, you have to be aware. If you're a presenter, you can't repeat yourself on a lot of things. And here I am doing it. So I'm still practicing. Don't feel used. I'm using you to practice. No, don't do that. Anyway, let's move on. When I was approached about this book, I read it. I don't consider myself a good reader. I've always struggled to read. Throughout school, I've always struggled to read. Now, I was never diagnosed with anything, but if I were to get diagnosed, I wouldn't be surprised. But I've always struggled to read, not so much to comprehend, but I can't read fully through some words. I can't make out sentences as well. Words, they look weird to me. And so one of the ways I used to combat this at school is I would just show up to school. I would listen to the professor. I would listen to the lecturer, to the teacher. I'd be in the front of the class. Now, I wasn't a nerd, but I was like, and I would see people skip class. I'm like, I'll take notes, blah, 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 whatever. And with AI, I'm sure it's different. But I figured I was always paying attention, right? And then I would use notes that I would write. And I was a horrible note taker as well. But I passed. I was probably a B student. So I did that. Anyway, when I was approached about this book, I said, okay. And I read through it. And it was a small book. It was a pretty fast book, but it captured my heart and it made me cry. And I'm like, why would you want me to read it? I asked myself, like, why would they want that? And I said, easy, because I could speak for the person who they're writing about. I said, okay. So I started practicing, and it was tough at first. And there have been some challenges, but I have been able to overcome a little bit of those, and I'm doing it. And here's another thing that I did. I decided to start from the end. Sounds weird, right? I read the book twice, but I decided to do the voiceover starting from the end. And I think that's a brilliant idea because my voice could be consistent from chapter to chapter. And so that's what I'm doing today. How is this connected to 10,000 Tacos? It's all connected to 10,000 Tacos because I feel very comfortable doing something. And I didn't know 8 years ago that I was going to be asked to read a book. And I'm hoping that this first book, once it gets published, when people recognize my voice, if they do, that they could say, hey, I'd like to hire that guy. Maybe I'm optimistic. It's all spiritually, it's all connected. And even if they don't, I'm having such a good time learning tools, how to connect the camera, how to set up myself to where I can speak freely, how to do exercises. In 2017, I took a class on storytelling, and one of the exercises was to how to prep your voice for storytelling. Those same exercises I'm using every morning when I get up to do a section of this book. I know it's not connected to 10,000 Tacos on the surface, but it is very connected because when I look at how my parents started their food truck, they didn't have intentions on starting a food truck business when they got to the United States. They knew what they knew. My dad was a butcher. My dad learned how to cut meats and learned about meats because my grandmother operated a little store where he grew up. My mom grew up in a ranch, and she was the oldest of females out of 17 children. She got to grow up pretty fast, pretty quick. And then she learned how to cook from my grandmothers on my dad's side. And so by the time they got together, they already knew stuff. And then they brought their family to the United States, had another child here, and they started their food truck. Not out of just, oh, hey, we have a plan. No, it was out of survival, but they knew these elements. And 25, 26, 27 years later, when my dad retired, he was a pretty successful taquero. It's all connected. It is all connected. That's why I call myself the proud son of a taquero. Taqueros, because whether they knew it or not, in 2026, I would be standing in front of a camera in my home with a setup where I can do the voiceover for a character that's very special. I'll take that 1,000 times over. Thank you for joining us on this latest episode of 10,000 Tacos. I'm the proud son of a taquero, and this is 10,000 Tacos.